ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले सोऽयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः। ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। We are starting with chapter 8. I'm sharing the slides now. All right. Can see the slides, I hope. Okay. So, chapter 8, Attaining the Supreme, Akshara Brahma Yoga. So, let us see what is there in this chapter. So, chapter 7 did not have any questions by Arjuna. And chapter 7, the main aspect was to know who is Krishna, knowledge of the absolute, or and there was some focus on the process of how to know Krishna in 7.14, that Daivi hi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mam eva ye prapadyante, that those who surrender to me can cross this Maya, this ocean of Maya. Maya metam tarantite. So, but there was not a very deep understanding or a focus of how to surrender to Krishna. So in this chapter, a little bit more, Lord Krishna will describe on how to surrender to Krishna, and that will be through the process of remembrance. This also connects with the last question that Arjuna asks. Sorry, Arjuna does not ask any questions in chapter 7. Lord Krishna says in the end of the last verse that those who have performed this or have done my dridha bhajan. We spent a lot of time, I believe, on 7.28, which talked about bhajante mam dridha vrataha, that those who have done this are able to remember me prayana kale api cha mam, so te vidur yukta chetasaha. So they are able to remember me in their mind or in their heart at the time of death, prayana kale. So that is where seventh chapter ended, and how to remember Krishna at the time of death is a big topic of this chapter. So so that is the essence, or that's the main focus of chapter 8. Also is described a little bit more about the permanent nature of that destination and the temporary nature of the material world, which is our present uh, state or present residence. But the permanent spiritual world is permanent, and that is our destination or our intended destination. Okay, so chapter 8 begins with some questions by Arjuna. We will see what those questions are. So just a small point here, how the chapters are organized. So 7, 8, 9 are chapters that are exclusively on bhakti. Chapter 7 is more focused on jnana, so knowing about Krishna, who essentially he is. That is why it is bhakti jnana. Eighth chapter is in uh, sort of telling us about bhakti dhyana, how to attain Krishna by focusing our mind or absorbing ourselves in him. And the ninth chapter is all about bhakti itself. So we are now going into the dhyana portion of chapter of bhakti. And this, as you can see, the jnana and dhyan from previous chapters, the learnings from those chapters can be used or should be applied to bhakti also. Okay. So, chapter 8 begins with some questions by Arjuna. I will not go into the verses themselves, but Arjuna asks 6 questions of these terms. And then he asks, so total 7 questions are asked. So 6 questions are: what is Brahman, what is Adhyatma, what is Karma, Adhibhuta, Adhidaiva, and Adhiyagya. So Lord Krishna in 8 point, so these questions are 2 verses, 8.1 and 8.2. 8.3 and 4 are quick responses to the first 6. Okay, and then Lord Krishna will answer the 7th question, which Arjuna asks is how to remember you at the time of death. Okay, so I will read just the translation of 8.1 to 8.4. So Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? So what is Brahman? That's the first one. What is the self? That is Adhyatma. What are fruitive activities? That is karma. What is this material manifestation? That is Adhibhutam. And what are the demigods? That is Adhidaivam. Please explain this to me. So 5 questions have been asked. Then 6th and 7th will be asked in the next verse. Who is the Lord of sacrifice? Adhiyagyam. And how does he live in this body? So that's part of the question. And the 7th question is, how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? So how can we remember Krishna at the time of death? All right. So these are the 7 questions. So first 6 questions are answered in the next 2 verses, 8.3 and 8.4. Oh, I forgot to send the message on. Can you send message on WhatsApp? Class has started. Yeah, I send it usually, but I forgot. Just say class has started. 8.3. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman. So that's the first answer. The spiritual living entity or the soul is Brahman, as you can see in the slide. Now, here it says Aksharam Brahma Paramam. So Aksharam means eternal or spiritual. That is the meaning of Akshara. We will see this in 15th chapter. There are two types of elements. Kshara means one which is fallible, and Akshara means infallible. Everything material is fallible. Fallible means it has an ending or it meets its death. Material body, anything to do with matter, that is known as a Kshara. Akshara means infallible or spiritual. Now, Brahma has contextual meanings throughout the Bhagavad Gita. So, in the glossary of the Bhagavad Gita, which is, I don't know if it is available on the online version. Let me just check. Yeah, there is no glossary. So, this is the benefit of the, everybody has book. Show me your book. Very good. All right. Where is your book, Ram? Don't have book?
I was using Veda.
So you must have book. See, now you cannot see glossary. So, glossary. So we have glossary. I don't know if you can see. So in glossary of the printed Bhagavad Gita, I think they should put it online also. I don't know why they have not put. Anyway, if you look at the word Brahman, it has 4 meanings. You can see Brahman, the individual soul. Number 2, the impersonal, all-pervasive aspect of the Supreme. That is the Brahman which we have in Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagawaan iti Shabdyate. That verse which we have discussed so many times. Then the third is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the Brahman. Sometimes Brahman is referred to as Bhagawaan also. Now they are all the same according to that verse. Now somebody was asking me that what does it mean they are same? The tattva is the same. I will just answer. At the tattva level, they are the same. But one way to answer it, again, see, all this cannot be answered in words. One which is spiritual can never be answered in material language. So all we can do is beat around the bush. So yes, I acknowledge we are beating around the bush. That's the best that can be done. The actual thing will happen through experience. Sevon mukhehi jivvado. So, swayam eva spuratyadaha. So, the Lord will make us realize on our material senses the real meaning. Okay, and that comes only by practice. It cannot be told in English language in a verbal conversation. So, tattva means like water. H2O has 3 forms, right? Ice, liquid, solid, liquid, and gas. Ice, water, and steam. Tattva is the same. You can say from chemistry standpoint, tattva is same, but 3 different forms. So like that, if all aspects are the same, then why you need 3 names, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan? So there is difference. It's not that they are exactly same. So one has to understand that also. Anyway, so Brahman is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, meaning number 3. And meaning number 4 is the Mahat Tattva or the material substance. So sometimes Brahman is also referred to matter. It's kind of little mind-boggling how Brahman can refer to so many things. It is referring to Jivatma, it is referring to Paramatma, it is referring to Bhagawaan, and not only, at least all those 3 are spiritual, but sometimes it refers to material also. So that is why we need Acharya's commentaries to understand the contextual meaning of the words. Okay, so this is how our Vedas have been written. So there is no point in opposing it or all the time just, staying in a confused state. Okay. Yeah. So in this particular verse, Aksharam Brahma Paramam, the indestructible, now I'm back to 8.3. The indestructible transcendental living entity is called Brahman. So here it is referring to Jivatma. And his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. So the nature or the swabhav of the soul, which is eternal and spiritual, or Akshara, is known as Adhyatma. Swabhavo Adhyatmam Uchyate. And the Swabhava has been also mentioned in the previous line, which is Akshara. So that Akshara and Parama, so its nature has been described also. Action pertaining to the development of material bodies of the living entities is called karma, or fruitive activities. So karma is the action which brings the material or the living entity into the material world. So, or it is the cause of bondage of the living entity in this material world. When all the karma is eradicated, all of it, prarabdha, aprarabdha, everything, then the living entity is liberated, or is called as liberated, and it gets liberated from the material clutches or maya and goes to the spiritual world. Okay, that's third verse. And then in the fourth verse is, O best of the embodied beings, that is Arjuna, the physical nature, which is the constantly changing, is called Adhibhuta, or the material manifestation. So Adhibhuta is the nature of the material world. So it is the opposite of Adhyatma, which is the spiritual nature. This is the material nature. And the universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods like those of the sun and the moon, is known as Adhidaiva. Adhidaiva is the form of the Lord in the material world, which is Adhidaiva, and also the universal form, which we will study in 11th chapter. We will see that in that chapter, Arjuna sees all the demigods, all the devatas in the within the Supreme Lord. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the super soul in the heart of every living being, every embodied being, am called as Adhiyagya, the Lord of Sacrifice, Adhiyagya. So that we have also seen from 5th chapter, right? Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam. So the super soul, or the Paramatma in the heart of every living entity, is known as Adhiyagya. So these are the 6 questions, and the answer is given by Sri Krishna. Any questions on this? All right. Now comes the most important question, is the 7th one. 7th question is, what he asks is, Prayana Kale Chakatham Gyeyosi Niyatatmabhihi. So, what is the meaning of this line? Anybody can say? What is the question? Raise your hand. What is the question? Yes, Makarand Prabhu.
Question is how to know you at the time of death.
Okay. Anybody else wants to take a shot? What is the question? Prayana Kale Chakatham Gyeyosi Niyatatmabhihi. Who wants to take a guess?
One must remember Krishna at the time of death, it says in 8.8, I think, in order to go back to him. So what does it actually mean?
What is the question being asked in 8.2? That is my question to you.
Yeah, like what exactly does it mean to remember Krishna at the time of death? Because then one, like, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Sanjeev Prabhu. You raised your hand. Anyone else?
Yeah. How to remember Krishna at the time of death.
Okay. So everybody is saying how to remember Krishna at the time of death. Right? So, what is the meaning of this word? Niyatatma bhihi. Nobody said that. So, it is often overlooked, as it has been just proven. Nobody added this to the translation. Okay. Prayana kale cha katham geyosi. How to remember. Okay. Katham geyosi. Prayana kale, at the time of death. Okay. And geyo asi mein it is included, remember you. But then what is niyatatma bhihi? Niyatatma bhihi means niyata atma bhihi, which means who has controlled his mind, who has a controlled mind. So the word by word translation says niyatatma bhihi is by the self-controlled. And in Srila Prabhupada's translation, he says, and how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? That is very important. That this verse is not talking about any, ordinary person or materialistic person. How can anybody know you at the time of death? Geyo asi. It is talking about somebody special, one who has controlled his mind. But we saw from 7th chapter that also means, or from the bhakti angle, it means firmly fixed devotees. So which means Arjuna is asking, he is realizing that even for the fixed devotees, it is hard to remember Krishna at the time of death, or it could be hard. Nobody has experience of it because we are all alive. Death comes only once. So nobody can have multiple experiences of death. There are near-death experiences. We won't go into that. But assuming that that's not the case, then everybody has only one chance, one experience of death. So how to remember you for devotees, for fixed devotees? So it is an assumption already that one is a fixed devotee, and then the question is how to remember. All right, so this is significant to understand. So if one is not a fixed devotee, the question itself should not arise, because it is assumed, or it is a foregone conclusion, that one will not be able to remember Krishna at the time of death. In the question is inbuilt a prerequisite, a precondition. Please try to understand. Okay? And Lord Krishna will be answering that question. How can a self-controlled or a fixed devotee remember me? Not how can any Tom, Dick, and Harry remember me. It is not going to be like a lottery, or like toss a coin, or it's not going to be like a just like a random thing. So now comes a very important verse. Please wake up. It's a very important topic, so please don't miss this. Read it from Bhagavad Gita, read it, understand it from various angles. So 8.5 is a very, very important verse, extremely, extremely important verse. How to die, or at the last moment, how to die. It's not about, then it will come to how to live your life so that you can die in this way. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra sanshayah. So, antakale cha mam eva. So at the time of death, so we will do a detailed analysis. Antakala, at the time of death, cha. So Lord Krishna is giving the answer. First, he is giving just the theory. This is the theory. Mam eva, at the time of death, mam eva. Mam eva means only me. Okay? Mam eva. Smaran, doing smaran of me only, not me plus many other things. Okay, and at the time of death, it is, I have not experienced. Now, I have experienced my mother passing away last year. It was a very close experience for me. And it was not very, I was by her side for many hours before she passed away. I could see her final breath. They say, no, that he breathed his last, or she breathed her last. That's what it is said. So I could see her last breath. I was seeing, will she breathe again? Her breathing was becoming smaller and shallower. And each breath after, each time it was coming. After the last breath, I was waiting. 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds passed. One more breath, I was thinking will come. Didn't come. That's when I knew that was the last breath. And obviously she was unconscious. 1 minute before that, she opened her eyes for 3 seconds. Anyway, few hours before that, I was telling her she was listening something. I was saying, say Krishna. She was not able to say. Then I realized maybe it is too hard. I said, say Ram. I could see her lips moving and she said Ram. I could make out she said that 2 hours before, maybe 2-3 hours. Then she was like completely unconscious and all that, and then she left. Anyway, I don't know what she was doing. Smaran. Smaran means, does not just mean remember. Smaran means, one second, I need to put a charger in this. No, I don't need any help. One second. Okay, let's see. Anyway, so at the time of death, what we are remembering, also what it means is what we are absorbed in, our absorption at the time of death. The thought we are absorbed in. Now, many people may not be even absorbed in any thought. I don't know, again, I'm just saying few things. Please take whatever you find valuable. So, one may be completely knocked out, unconscious, but it is, I feel, you can think of when you have some pain and all that. I have been in pain a lot. Migraine is one of the things that I get often. So I can realize what is that kind of pain. And when it is especially bad, I'm trying to close my eyes and put the pillow on my head and trying to, wait it out, whatever it means. And there is pain. I try to, do some mental japa. So many things are there. Mind gets distracted and so on. But it takes effort to bring the mind or focus the mind on Krishna. Time of death is probably going to be much more harder or much more troublesome, much more painful. Maybe the breathing is not happening or whatever may be the case. Assuming you are dying in that way, one could die in many worse ways, fires or crash or who knows what. So the smaran is a very important word. It does not just mean last minute, that last breath, like I told you of my mother, just saying Krishna. That is not. That is also smaran, but here what smaran means is deeper. It is the absorption of the mind during at the time of death and several hours, several minutes before that, several days also before that. So as the health is declining, one stops eating. In the last few days, one stops drinking also. And only breathing, mind is still active. So what is one focusing on during those very, very disturbing and painful hours of one's life? That is what is smaran. And when we do Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu discussion as part of our Bhakti Shastri later, I will explain the levels of smaran. It's important to understand smaran is not just a very shallow word. It has a lot of deeper meaning. So smaran means to be absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. So that is maybe a specific Leela of Krishna, a specific aspect of Krishna, one particular form of Krishna that you are attracted to a lot, and so on. So smarana is something very, very deep and very dear to one's heart. It is something one wants to do. One is always attached to doing that. And I will tell a little story in just a second about that. So smarana, muktva kalevaram, that like this, one he quits the body. Kalevaram means body. Muktva means leaves the body. Yah prayati sa madbhavan, that then he goes to my bhava. He attains my bhava. What is my bhava? Aksharam paramam, that was mentioned just in the previous verse. So he attains my bhava. What is my bhava? Krishna's bhava is spiritual. He is not material at all. So one attains the spiritual destination. And the last line, Krishna is saying, warning, don't you ever dare doubt this. It's like don't you ever dare doubt it. Like a strict warning. Yati na asti atra samshayaha. Don't you dare doubt it. Nobody should doubt this at all, that this process works. So that is a faith-building line. It should instill faith in your heart that Krishna is saying, Yati nasti atra samshaya. So please take it in that sense. And that is the understanding of this verse. So what is not there in this verse is this, that one will remember, or one not just remember at that 1 or 3 or 5 seconds before the last breath, but that whole absorption, the remembrance or the absorption will be in something that you have become attached to in your entire life. That will govern what you remember or absorb in at the time of death. And same thing happens for those who are not absorbed in Krishna. 8.6 says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajyatyante kalevaram tam evaiti kaunteya sada tad bhav bhavitaha. Otherwise, yam yam and tam, this and that, or which and that. That is the meaning of whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body. Yam yam vapi smarana, again smarana. Bhavam tyajyatyante kalevaram, same thing. muktva kalevaram tyajyatante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya. That particular bhava, sada tad bhava bhavitah, one will attain that bhava. That state he will attain without fail. So the question then is, what is that yam, whatever, vapi, va api, smaran bhavam? What will one remember at the time of death? And the answer is very simple. It is what matters the most, or what you have been attached to the most in your life. An attachment that doesn't come like in a split second. Attachment builds over time. It's like layers and layers and layers of strong attachment that builds over time. Okay, just like, a child, people are most attached to their children. Now some people have, क्या बोलते हैं जो हो जाता है पेट में, गर्भवास, miscarriage. Then it's not such a big calamity. There is some, distress, some feeling of loss. Compare that to losing a child who is 10, 12, 15 years old. Right? There is no comparison. Parents can be completely devastated because that 15 years of attachment has built. Okay? Sometimes during childbirth, the child may pass away. That also is, one recovers more or less from that. But from adult child's loss, very, very hard because of the attachment that has built over time. So what one has invested his mindset in throughout the life is very important. So there is very, very nice, I cannot remember another very strong story. Maybe some of you that have attended previous classes will find it like a repeat, but it is still a nice story to know. It is a movie called Citizen Kane. It was released, I don't know, it's a black and white movie from 1940s, almost 100 years ago. And it was on the bestseller, not seller, but whatever, top of the charts for 20 or 30 years. Imagine that. For that many years, it was on the top charts of the movies. Some people say it is the greatest movie of all time. Not the Titanic, not, I don't even know what are the other movies which are blockbusters, but none of those. This one, they say, is the, anyway, very, very famous movie, but the storyline is exceptionally strong. So the story starts with a very, very rich man. His name was, I think, Edward Kane. I didn't revise this. Maybe somebody can look it up on Wikipedia. In the movie, his name was something. Some Kane, Edward Kane or something. Anyway, let's assume it is Edward Kane.
I think it says Charles.
Charles Kane. Okay, yes. Very rich man. Very, very. He was the richest man on earth. He married the niece or the sister or daughter of the US president. So he was not US president, but actually US president has only glory for 4 years or 8 years maximum. So after that, people forget him. Rich people, they are famous throughout their life. So their longevity is not governed or not decided by number of years. They don't have a term limit on their wealth. So very rich man. So its story starts off when he was a small child and he would just play with his toys and all that. And it seems, if I remember correctly, his mother was very ambitious and she left him to go make some money in the gold rush, the California gold rush, I think, and left him with a a cousin or somebody to take care who was a banker. And so she would deposit money with him, the banker, and the banker would invest it. And he was taking care of the child. And the child didn't have like the focus of a family, father or mother. So he would just play with his toys. Then story develops. I think his mother dies or something happens, but anyway, he ends up with a lot of money because of the good investment done by this banker in his name. And he multiplies that wealth through his actions, through his whatever, business, etc. And he becomes a really big man. And then the movie goes around to show what all, how he just was completely involved in material success all the way, very, very rich man. Anyway, and then it also shows how his wife leaves him, how he's not getting along with his, basically he's very rich, but the life is hollow. Okay, that's the theme that is shown. And then one day he dies, and there are people around him, but they don't love him. They are there around him because of his money, but there is not much love with the person. And the last words of the man, this Charles Kane, are, he utters the one word he utters, rosebud. Okay, and he dies. So the meaning is that at the last moments of his life, he is thinking of something called rosebud. Okay. So then there is so that's how the movie begins. He's dying and he utters the word rosebud, and people are standing around him and they are wondering, what is this? Maybe it is the password or some secret to his treasure, or what is it? So one reporter picks up the thing and he says, I'll find out what this means. And the whole movie, the rest of the movie, is a flashback of his life to show how he grew up and all that thing. And then the movie comes to an ending, and he's, he could not find what is rosebud, and the same scene is shown that he's dying uttering the word rosebud. So nobody figures out what it means. He cannot figure it out. Then it is shown that some people come and they are just emptying his house. Now I can say it's a familiar experience. We also went recently to Bangalore, I shared probably. And we emptied out the apartment which my mother used to live in. Of course, in the last years of her life, many years, she was living with us. But before that, she had an apartment in Bangalore. And she had some things, and I knew some things were she was very attached to some of her saris and some of her things. And we wanted to ready the flat to sell it. So we, gave away most of those things, all her things that she was attached to. It was little heartbreaking, but still what to do, we have to get rid of all the attachments one day. So anyway, so some cleaners come to his house and they are just throwing things away, emptying the house, and wooden things they are throwing in the fire. So, and then they throw one, he had an old toy, a sledge, a snow sledge, and they throw it in the fire just because it is useless. It was broken and useless, and they just threw it in the fire. And then the camera focuses on the sledge. And, there is like a trademark or whatever, the manufacturer label on it, which says Rosebud. So what it means is that as a child, he was very attached. It was shown that he was very attached to this snow sledge and the other toys, but it was never shown that the word Rosebud was written. That is the last scene. So what you see in the corner is the last scene of the movie. So the audience gets to know what is the meaning of Rosebud, but nobody within the movie knows what it is, because then that piece of wood burns away. So that is the thing. So such a successful man, very nice story of such a successful man. But throughout his life, he couldn't get the love of people. And it shows that throughout his life, which is full of material success, he was attached to his childhood and his childhood toys. And that's what he was missing throughout his life. And at the end of his life, those were his thoughts. Because he had invested his mind in that throughout his life. So it is guaranteed what we will think at the end of our life is what we are going to be most attached to throughout our life. There is no other possibility of being attached to anything else. So then the question is, if Krishna is saying that you will come to me if your mind is attached to me at the time of death, antakale chamameva smaran muktva kalevaram. So mam eva smarana. If that is what we want, then we have to live our life doing that, building that layers of attachment. Like we develop attachment to our children, like Ajamil, at the last minute, he cries out the name of his son, Narayana. So in the same way, we have to build that attachment, and it's not like 1 year, 2 years, it's a long journey. Many, many years we have to invest in it. And unless we do that, there is no chance to remember or to be absorbed in Krishna like he was absorbed in rosebud. We cannot be. So we have to contemplate, are we doing that? You have to think about it. Are you really doing that? How much time we have left, and are you really doing that? Or you have, for those who have said, okay, in next life I will do it, no problem, then it's fine, no problem. But those who are serious about doing it in this life, and that's why I call seriousness about the goal. I am serious that I want this in this life. If that is the intent, and sometimes it takes multiple lives. So if you have put it out for 3-4 lifetimes, then fine, you can go enjoy. Don't need to read Bhagavad Gita. So that is what is being said here. Death is just a gateway to next life. And what is important is the final absorption of the mind. That will govern where we go. So you have to prepare for that. One has to prepare, and the human life is the opportunity to do that. We never know what our experience of death will be like. What our final thoughts will be, we don't know. We wish we knew. In that sense, Parikshit Maharaj was very lucky. It was foretold that how he will die. We are not that lucky. So we cannot predict. And don't try to think that, like I have shown this picture of a cricketer, famous cricketer, hitting the sixer on the last ball. You know, he may have won many matches like this by hitting a 6 on the last ball. But that comes after years and years and years of practice off the field, which we cannot see. We feel that, oh, you know, some magic. He just did it out of some magic. That's not magic. It takes years and years and years of tapasya, of hard practice. And we cannot predict how we will die. We might not even get few minutes or few seconds. We might just die immediately in a crash. Suddenly you are going for a picnic, and 5 seconds later you are gone. So that may also be possible. So the idea is to absorb ourselves in the present life. And that is what 8.7 is all about. Very, very important verse. And tasmat, how you know that it is important? Right there, Krishna has put the word tasmat. So any words with tasmat, you must remember 100%. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. All the time, sarveshu kaleshu. Okay, not half the time, not quarter time, but all the time. All the time. Sarveshu kaleshu. What you should do? Mam anusmara. Remember me, mam. Anusmara. Mera. Mam means mine. Anusmara. Do my smaran. Yuddha cha. And fight to Arjuna. So which means while doing your daily activities, while living your life. Okay? While living your life. To Arjuna, it's very hard instruction, a tough instruction while fighting, where the mind has to be absorbed in fighting. One wrong, one delay, split second delay in shooting the arrow, you could be killed. I mean, of course, Arjuna has Krishna to protect him and Hanumanji and so many things, but still, like, you're on your toes when you're fighting the battle. But still Krishna says mam anusmara and cha, which means and, not or when you are resting from the battle, then remember me. No, when you are fighting the battle, then, and all the times, all other times, but definitely while doing the most important activities, which means there is no gap. Okay. So remember Krishna and do your duty. Okay, so you cannot say that, oh, I was doing my work. Is that possible to remember Krishna at the time of doing your work? Many people write software code, which is also a very intense activity, isn't it? So, can you remember Krishna while writing software code? And the code is not about Krishna. The code is about something else, some database or whatever else it may be. So the code has nothing to do with Krishna. So can we remember Krishna while doing other things? So how can we understand this? How many think it is possible? Nobody? Okay, 1 person, 2 persons, 3, 4. Okay. So somebody, okay, you can lower your hands. So somebody want to share how it is possible while doing how we can understand that it is possible to focus on Krishna and
continuous practice.
no, you're telling the solution of how to develop that ability. My question is, what does it look like?
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Yeah.
So while doing some work, you can play kitten. That's where you can remember the Krishna.
Okay. Yes, Shrikar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I asked a similar question to Hari Parshad Prabhu. He gave a reference. You probably know it, but the word anudinam, meaning like constant, or like that. There's like a reference to like a madhyama adhikari. For an madhyama adhikari, anudinam means once a day. So if you think of Krishna once a day, then
Again, that
thinking
is, yeah, Anudinam and Adarat. Kintva Anudinam.
other, yeah, like seventh NOI.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Kintva Adarat Anudinam Khalu Saiva Jushta.
With respect.
Vikramad Bhavatu Tadgadamula Hantri. So, Anudinam and Adarat are there, but that is the solution. That's in the practice domain. Question is how does it look? Or how can you, at the time of doing something, how does it look?
Yeah, I mean, similar answer, I guess. In that case, it's like then it's like aaropa siddha bhakti. Like whatever you do, like if you see the shower, then everything you think of like the waters of the Yamuna.
Now we are getting somewhere. Now we are getting somewhere. Aaropa siddha bhakti and Svarupa siddha bhakti. So there are 3 types of bhakti. I will hint on it in the next few minutes, but let me come to that. Okay, anybody else? Shamlila Mataji, you have been putting your hand up and putting it
Hare
down.
Krishna Prabhuji. So Arop Siddha Bhakti, yes, but also like I was also thinking in like a more practical sense. Suppose we're attached to someone and we're at work and they're not well. We're constantly thinking, oh, is that person well? So it is definitely possible to constantly think of like somebody or something while you are also engaged at work. And then like Prabhuji said, gradually do trading and then get to Arop Siddha Bhakti where you can get to that stage where you are able to. But I was thinking more on the lines of, is it even possible to do something like that?
Yeah, so we will cover this in the next few minutes of discussion. But first, we have to understand that whatever we are attached to, it is possible to think of that when we are doing something else that we are not attached to. Okay, if we are attached to something and you are doing that, okay, then there is no problem. Then you are attached to, let's say we are attached to, everybody is attached to their children, let's just say that. And when you are playing with your child or whatever, they are doing things together, that is called Svarupa Siddha Bhakti. So direct engagement in the area of your attachment. So if one is completely attached to Krishna and one is doing Nam Kirtan, Nam Jap, reading about Krishna, worshipping the deity, whatever, that is Svarupa Siddha, which means it's a direct act of bhakti towards Krishna. Aaropa Siddha means that you are doing something else, but you are doing it, again, multiple angles this can be thought, that you are doing it for Krishna. But that is harder. If you are writing software code, one can think, okay, I really am doing this for Krishna. Now, I'll say this in the other terms, like Mataji was saying. 5 o'clock, you pack up your bags, you go home. You're waiting to go home. And while you're working, while people are working, now some people may be absorbed in their work, but as they're looking at the clock, half an hour left, 15 minutes left, 5 o'clock, I'll pack up and I will leave. The whole absorption in that last 1 hour or last 45 minutes or half an hour is, I need to pack up and go home. So one can realize that there is that absorption to the home, not to the work. Another very powerful example, which she said, is that when somebody is really sick at home, mothers or fathers know that children may be sick, or somebody loved one, or maybe with a terminal disease. All the time, the mind is occupied with that person. Yes, it is harder to focus on the work at that time. It is definitely harder, but it is possible to do some work, but our mind is there with that loved one. So Now, Arjuna is a very, very, very trained warrior, and he can do a perfect job of both, of fighting perfectly and remembering Krishna at the same time. But through these examples, we understand that it is possible. As the 5 o'clock approaches, our absorption in home increases. So, in the same way, it is possible. That's how it looks, that our mind becomes absorbed in something else that we are attached to while doing something that we are not attached. And then it is a matter of training and practice that we can do both to a very intense degree at the same time. Okay, so it is possible. The question was, how many of you think it is not possible? I hope it is evident, or it is somewhat clear that it is possible. Now the next question is that how to make it strong. And that we will discuss in the next verse. 8th verse, Lord Krishna tells the answer how to make it strong. But before that, we want to see what is the result of that. Now, in the result of that, Lord Krishna adds a few words. So let us see the next line. So first line was Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu, all the time. And please remember, this says all the time. Now, yes, for beginners, the meaning of Sarveshu Kaleshu could mean few hours. Actually, I have that aspect in the slides as well as in the next couple of slides. And for more advanced people, it could be more number of hours. For the most advanced, it is 24/7, 365 days a year. So, Sarveshu Kaleshu Ma Manusmara Yuddhacha. Do your activity and remember me. Next is the next line, which is Mai Arpita Mano Buddhir Mam Evaishyasi Asamshayaha. Mai Arpita. That by Arpita, by surrendering, by giving, Arpita means to give, to surrender. Man and Buddhi, both, mind and intelligence. So, Mai Arpita, that means putting your mind in Krishna. The mind has to be Arpita, to be surrendered in Krishna. And Buddhi, why Buddhi? Mind which has been guided or trained by Buddhi. See, mind we saw is very fickle. It jumps around. The intelligence, the Buddhi, is the one that trains the mind. So mind that has been very nicely, very strongly over again a long period of time has been very nicely trained. So the mind and the Buddhi is also not looking. So Buddhi is the one that can look at alternatives. What is the purpose of Buddhi? The purpose of Buddhi is to discriminate. Discrimination by definition means there are alternatives, isn't it? In the word discrimination, alternative is included because you will discriminate A from B. That right there is two alternatives, two options. So Buddhi means given several options to pick one. That is Buddhi. So the intelligence, the Buddhi, is completely on Krishna. Whatever other alternatives that are coming up for engaging the mind, the Buddhi is not even offering it to the mind. So the mind is always channeling, the Buddhi is always channeling the mind towards Krishna. That's the only option that the Buddhi is giving to the mind. And the mind is slowly getting trained in thinking of Krishna all the time. So, Mai, that is the meaning of Mai, Arpita, Mana and Buddhi, Mano Buddhir. And then Mam Evaishyasi Asamshayaha. Again, Lord Krishna is saying, don't you doubt this. If you do this the rest of your life, what you do, Mai Arpita Mano Buddhir. And sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yuddhacha. If you do this throughout your life, then mam evaishyasi samshayaha. You will be able to remember me at the time of death, and you will come to me. Mam evaishyasi. So Krishna 2 times is saying this, that don't doubt. Samshaya and samshaya in 8.5 also. So one should dispel all, give up all doubt that this process works. This process is true. One should have complete faith that this process works. And this also shows the importance of faith, because we are talking about the outcome at the time of death. Okay, that's like saying the final moment. Keep doing this, keep doing this. At the moment of death, you will get the reward. But if you don't get the reward, at that time, you have no opportunity to lodge a complaint. You cannot sue Krishna. You cannot file a complaint. There is no opportunity left. That's the last moment. Either you will get it or you will not get it. Either this whole knowledge is correct or true, or it is false. You will only figure out at the time of death. If this whole thing is bogus, it is one big cheating scheme, still you will only figure out at the time of death. So the only thing is faith. Okay, there is no, you cannot hold Krishna accountable. You cannot go ask him, Arey, you said this, but you didn't happen. So that is not possible. So one has to invest the faith in it, and with full faith do this. Okay, so this is very important. And Mai Arpita, so I put in some more bullets. I will skip those, but yeah, man and buddhi both have to be invested. Yeah, okay. Then 8.8, very important verse. So how do we begin? By abhyas. Abhyas yoga yuktena chetasa na anyagamina, na anyagamina, na anyagamina. Paramam purusham divyam yati partha anuchintayan. So very important verse which tells the secret of how. And what is the how? Abhyasa. Abhyasa yoga, by practice. Abhyasa yoga yuktena, by doing constant abhyasa. Chetasa na anyagamina, and putting the chitta means the mind, na anyagamina, not letting it go anywhere else. Now in the beginning it will go, but the end state, it should be that it doesn't go anywhere else. It's so absorbed in Krishna, not by force, but by taste. So the goal should be that throughout this life that we have, develop the taste. That is the way to make the mind stick to Krishna, not by force. Mind is almost like a dog's tail, almost, which means by force, if you try to do it, train it or put it on Krishna, there is not going to be attraction to Krishna. So develop the taste in it. And again, how to develop taste? By going or being in association of those who have the taste. So it's hard to find such people, but you got to find what you love, which limb of bhakti you can develop taste in, pursue it, and always be in. And then there is one last point, which I will save to the end, which is very important also. So this is how one should do abhyasa of Paramam Purusham Divyam, the Divya Param Purush, which is referring to Krishna here. Yati Partha Anuchintayan. Anuchintayan, like this, you should do Anuchintayan. Chintayan means meditation, or absorb your mind, or practice to absorb your mind. Anu is again very important word. Anuchintayan. What is Anu? What is Anu? Who can tell?
Repeat it
Every
and
minute.
Repetition.
Continuous, unbroken. Anuchintayan. That means one has to continuously, as little breaks as possible. So what is the answer? Practice. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa na anyagamina. Na anyagamina. Exclusively, nowhere else. Na anya. These are very important words. One has to understand the significance of each word, not just focus your mind on Krishna. It also means not focusing it elsewhere. Na anya, and that is the secret, which we will discuss in just a second. And Partha, my dear Arjuna, anuchintayan, do the anuchintayan means continuous, unbroken, perpetual. Perpetual. Now comes the question that how do you write software code? How do you do your job 8 hours, 10 hours a day? So in the beginning, for serious beginners, I picked some numbers. Okay. If you want, you can blame me for picking numbers. And but for serious beginners, if one is serious, this should be the few hours at least one should do. One can take out of 24 hours. Solid 3-4 hours for bhakti. Bhakti is an activity, it's an action. Okay, it's performed by the senses, so it's an activity. Later on, it becomes bhava. It becomes a state of the heart or the state of the mind. But in the beginning, sadhan stage, it is action, activity of bhakti. So 3-4 hours. And this is what I am talking about is Svarupa siddha bhakti. Direct activity of bhakti. Not side activities. Oh, I'm doing my job so that I can earn money, so that I can support my life, so that I can do bhakti in the evening. Okay, that's very good. That's how the consciousness should be while doing your job. But that's not what is this 3-4 hours. This 3-4 hours is the evening part or the morning part before you go to job or after you come from job. This is the direct activity of bhakti. I don't know of any employer who will employ you to do Svarupa Siddha Bhakti. Our temple actually has pujaris. We give them some stipend. But and to do deity worship, and that is Svarupa Siddha, but that's a stipend. Those pujaris are very nice. They do it, not for the money, I hope. But anyway, there is no high-paying job which will pay you to do Svarupa Siddha Bhakti. It has to be out of your own accord. So for serious beginners, minimum 3-4 hours a day of Svarupa Siddha Bhakti should be done. Otherwise, I will say one is not serious. Then you have some other things. God has given 24 hours, lot of hours, 24. So 3-4 can be taken out. And then as one advances gradually, almost whole day, I am saying 10-12 hours for advanced devotee, then all they do is this. The job part comes down, becomes zero maybe. One need to live within the means. If one lives within the means, then the needs are not much, and one can just do bhajan. So this is called Mai Arpita Mano Buddhir. So please don't think that it is some easy statement. Okay, it is not. That's people may say, oh, you can just do your job. Now, someone, Prabhuji said, listen to kirtan on the side. That's all good, but I find like I cannot focus doing a serious job. The kirtan is like, oh, 3-4 kirtans have gone. You ask which song was being sung, which bhajan, or I don't remember. I was so absorbed. So yes, that is nice engagement in the background, but I'm saying foreground engagement, foreground. Or maybe some lecture is going on and you are doing your job. That's nice. Many people do. Then if you say, okay, summarize the lecture, will you be able to? And then if you listen to it carefully, then you will say, Arey, I didn't even realize this was also there in the lecture. It was such an important point. I missed it because I was focused here. So mind is something that can only be focused at one place. Okay, it's very hard to focus the mind in two places. So those are good things, but one should not be under the impression that that is a very high stage of absorption. That is not. So direct absorption in Krishna alone, not while writing code or this or that. Completely. For us, this is. Okay. And not side activities. Not aaropa siddha bhakti either. Not aaropa siddha bhakti that, oh, I am doing my job, I am earning the money, or even other side activities like, maybe even going and earning money for the temple direct. Even that is not Svarupa siddha. Svarupa siddha, Rupa Goswami has clearly defined direct activities of bhakti. So all the side activities, they are very nice, but one should understand that unless one is doing direct bhakti to Krishna, Swarup Siddha 10-12 hours per day minimum at advanced level, this at the time of death will not happen. And this 10-12 hours will not happen if there is no taste. So many people say, how we can do, develop the taste. Once there is taste, that is what you will want to do. Everything else will feel like a distraction. And you will feel, I want to give it up. So one thing, now here is the last point, one of the big secret to be able to do long hours of bhajan. Bhajan means activities of bhakti, is to cut down the rest of the entanglements. We consciously put ourselves into many entanglements, and then we find no taste or no time. So all this we have to take into consideration for doing the practice, abhyasa yoga yuktena. So if one is serious about bhakti, one has to dedicate one's life to bhakti. There is no if anybody is telling you anything else, I'm sorry to say, they are cheating you, or they themselves don't know what they are saying. So you want to go with that, you can go with that. So, if a person himself doesn't have the experience, then they will say anything. Now, I'm not saying, I am repeating the words of acharyas, previous acharyas, senior devotees. So I also am not advanced, but I am standing on their strength. But if anybody is saying, yeah, you can do, your job, think like you are doing it for Krishna and this and that, try and see how long that sustains. How many days you can go on the job, write code, and think I am doing this for Krishna. So one has to start cutting that down and increasing our Swarup Siddha Bhakti. Till one cannot do that, at least the Lord has given 24 hours. Do that for 8 hours, 3, 4, 5 hours solid bhakti, 6, 7 hours sleep, whatever other daily activities add up to 24. That is what should happen, which means cutting down all the other nonsense that we do. So that has to be cut down. Then I feel it is possible within 24 hours. So that is the discussion on the practice part of it. Okay. Now, Lord Krishna is going to discuss the connection between dhyana and bhakti. So 8.9 to 8.13 is a direct connection between dhyana yoga and bhakti yoga. So remember that one slide I had showed in the beginning, Dhyana Yoga, and this is Dhyana Mishra Bhakti. So there it was said, by closing the eyes, by focusing on the super soul or Paramatma in the heart and putting the eyes in between the eyebrows, or the mind or the focus between the eyebrows, etc. One has to do dhyana. Similar things will be here, but with focus on Shri Krishna. Okay, and there is a big difference which we will see, which will open up in 8.14. Yes, Ashish Prabhuji, you had a question, or you raised your hand.
Whether the chanting also is a Sarup Siddha Bhakti?
100%. That is the best Swarup Siddha Bhakti. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in, let me show you. Chanting is the best. I'll show you. You are seeing the screen? Chaitanya Charitamrit. Think Antya Leela. Let's see. Antya Leela. Let me see. Yes. 70. 70. And what is there before? Yeah. Bhajaner madhye shrestha navavidha bhakti. Krishna prema Krishna dite dhara mahashakti. So, bhajaner madhya, among the various ways of doing bhajana, sarva shrestha, not sarva shrestha, shrestha is being said, shrestha. Best is navavidha bhakti. And it can give Krishna prema and Krishna. It can give Krishna as well as Krishna prema. So, Srila Prabhupada translation, among the ways of executing devotional service, bhajanera madhye shrestha navavidha bhakti. And you know navavidha bhakti? Yes? What it is? What is navavidha bhakti?
Shravanam, Kirtanam, Padsevanam.
Vishnu smaranam, padasevanam, archanam, vandanam, dasyam, sakyam, atma nivedanam. So those are, and there are, Rupa Goswami has given 5 limbs which match with these 9: Bhagavat Shravana, Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtana, Mathura Vas, and Murti Sevana. For these processes have great potency to deliver Krishna and ecstatic love for him, right? Now, next verse, very important. Tara Madhye means among the 9, Sarva Shrestha. So previously he said Shrestha. Now he says Sarva Shrestha Nama Sankirtana. Among those, best is Nama Sankirtana. So number 1 is Nam Sankirtan. Remaining, there is no ranking. 2, 3, 4, we don't know. But at least we know number 1 is Nam Sankirtan. Niraparadhe Naam Laile Paye Premadhan. But you have to do it with Aparadh Rahit. You need to understand in detail the offenses. Naam Aparadhas. Not commit any of the Naam Aparadh. If you do it like that, and what are the Naam Aparadh? It's a long 5-hour class. So Naam Aparadh Rahit. Laile Naam Laile Paya Premadhan. So one can get Krishna Prema by doing Niraparad Nam Sankirtan. Now here it does say Sankirtana. Technically, japa is not Sankirtana. Sankirtan means together, but it is in the same category. So yes, our japa is a very, I don't know whether it is number 1 or 1.5 or 2, but definitely up there. Okay? Up there. But the more important part is Niraparad. So, like we said in 8.2, we forget. We say Prayana Kale Chakatham Jayasi Niyatatma Bhihi. That for a self-controlled person, how to remember Krishna. We forget those words. So we say Tara Madhya Sharvashresh Nama Kirtan, Nam Kirtan, Nam Sankirtan, Nam Sankirtan. Niraparadha also is there. Please remember Niraparadha. We tend to forget the words which we don't like. Okay, but this is very important verse. So please remember Antya 470-71. Okay. Anything else? All right. Yeah, bataya na. Swarup Siddha Bhakti. Other examples are the Navvidha Bhakti is Swarup Siddha Bhakti. All those 9 ways are Swarupa Siddha. Shravanam means hearing about Krishna, but hearing also in the attentive way and by analysis, trying to really understand. You should be able to repeat. You should be able to analyze. You should be able to explain to somebody what you have heard. That means not just hearing from one ear and going out of another, hearing and assimilating and understanding fully so that you can apply it in your life. What does it mean for me, what I have heard? So hearing is another very important Swarup Siddha Bhakti. Okay, and then there are 5 limbs. I'm not going to go into all the details. Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu and maybe some other places in Bhagavad Gita we can discuss. Yeah, okay. Okay, let us move forward. Today I want to at least get to 8.14, half the chapter. What is the time? 7:30. Okay, good. Okay, so Dhyana. So Bhakti and Dhyana, the mixture of Bhakti and Dhyana will be discussed. So very nice verses. This is, this meter is also very, very sweet meter. Indra Vajra. And we will discuss these verses. So we see the parallels between Dhyana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga in these verses. But what is the difference? The difference is that we will see this in the last verse, 8.13 of this section, 9 to 13. 5 verses are there. A very strict focus of the mind is not needed. In Dhyana Yoga, that is everything. Mind has to be 100% focused, and you are the one who is responsible for focusing the mind. And even Arjuna said, no, sorry, not possible. Okay. So, we will see the reason, because Krishna helps. You focus your mind as much as possible from your side. And then Krishna does the rest. So you get help from Krishna. And that is why it is bhakti. So this is dhyana, mishra bhakti, or bhakti that is mixed with dhyana on Krishna, and that is highly recommended. That is the process of smaran. So focusing on Krishna, and the smarana happens on, there are 4 main aspects of smaran: Nam, Roop, Guna, and Leela. And then there are 2 more, which is Parikara and Upadesh or Shiksha. So Parikara Smarana means remembering the associates of Krishna, or Krishna's dealings with the associates, or just the associates, and the instructions of Krishna as well. So that is the meaning of the smarana. And so some aspects will be shown here on how one focuses on Krishna. So 9th verse, 9 and 10 are a joint verse, or not joint in the sense, if you do 9, the result is explained in 10. So let us see the 9th verse. Prayanakale manasa chalena. So this is Indra Vajra. I don't know of any other way to sing it. So there are many tunes of singing this, but very nice verse. And yeah. Prayanakale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva Bhuvora madhye pranamaveshya samyak satam param purusham upaiti divyam. So like that, it has to be recited. So prayana kale manasa achalena, manasa chalena, manasa achalena. That means at the time of death, keeping the mind fixed. Okay. On, we will see that will come. Bhaktya, a bhakta. So this is about bhakti. This is not just dhyana yoga. Bhaktya yukto, by a bhakta on the strength of his bhakti yoga, yoga balena chaiva. So he has done the bhakti throughout his life. So it's not just some magic in the last minute like Sachin Tendulkar, as if he has done some magic in the last ball. No, you should go see in the practice fields how much blood and sweat has been spent. That is what you see in the final match. You see and you think it is easy. It's not easy. So, yukta yoga balena, on the strength of the yoga that you have engaged in throughout your life, the bhakti yoga, bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva. Dhruvor madhye pranam aveshya samyak, putting your prana, your life air, completely focusing on that in the dhruvor madhye, in this between your eyebrows. Satam param purusham upaiti divyam, focusing like this on whom to focus, that is coming in the next verse. Then one attains the param purusham divyam, the same param purusham divyam, one attains the spiritual destination. Satam param purusham upaiti divyam. Upaiti means attains. So the translation is one who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and by the strength of yoga with an undeviating mind engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Supreme Lord focus is shown in the next verse in so many ways. Wait, did I skip a verse? Kavim Puranam. Yes. So that is the, that's what, sorry. So the who to focus on is in the 9th verse, and the 10th verse, which I just discussed, is that when one focusing on the Supreme Lord, one attains the Param Purusham Upaiti Divyam. So we'll go to the 9th verse, that is who to focus on, and there are so many forms that are given. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoranyamsam Anusmaredyaha Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Adityavarnam Tamasah Parastat. So many meanings are given. So the translation is one should meditate on the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, Kavim. So there are just different, now you will see here Guna, Rupa, Nama, all these aspects will come up here. So one who knows everything, that's a Guna. Puranam, old, he's the oldest, he's the first person, from him comes everyone. All living entities, Mameva, Amsho, Jiva, Loke, Jiva, Bhuta, Sanatana, everyone is coming from Bhagawaan. Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, Mattah Sarvam Pravartate. So he's the oldest. Anushasitaram, he's the controller. So like this, these are all the qualities. Anu, Aniyamsam. So Anu is like a form. It's like very small he is. And so it's a form aspect. So we saw Guna, we saw Rupa. Aniyamsam, very small. Anusmaredyaha, one should remember Bhagwan in these ways. In the Rupa, in the Guna form. Sarvasya Dhataram, he is the maintainer. Again, Guna, one of the qualities, or this can be also seen as Leela. That is his activity. how he is maintaining everyone. Dhataram, how he is holding everyone. The very direct meaning, that is one of the meaning is drawn, is he is holding the Govardhan hill. Govardhan hill is representing the entire creation, and he is supporting all his devotees by holding the Govardhan hills. That is direct Leela Smaran. So we have Leela Smaran, we have Rupa Smaran, we have Guna Smaran. Okay. Achintya Rupam, and in many, many different inconceivable forms that one cannot conceive. Achintya Rupam. So Rupam. Aditya Varnam. He's bright, blazing like the sun, and destroys the tamasah parastat. So that is the various ways in which one can remember Krishna. So one should meditate upon the Supreme Person who, as the one who knows everything, Kavim, as the oldest, Puranam, controller, Anushasitaram, who is smaller than the smallest, Anoranyamsam, who is the maintainer of everything, Sarvasya Dhataram, who is beyond all material conception, Achintyam, inconceivable also Achintyam, and who is always a person, Purusham, he is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature, Tamasah Parastat, beyond the Tamasa is the being called as the material nature, Tamasah Parastat. So in this ways, when you remember, in these various ways, when you remember Krishna, and it's not that one has to remember in all different ways, then you begin to develop liking for 1-2 ways, and you begin to focus your bhajan to those specific forms or roop, gun or leela of, or naam of Bhagawaan, and you begin to deepen your bhajan based on that. So that is the meaning of deepening one's smaran. And then like this, at prayana kale manasa chalena, like this, at the time of death, one fixes the mind, manasa achalena, bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva. Like this, on the yoga, on the bala, on the strength of the yoga that one has done throughout the life, one should focus the mind, and then one attains bhuvor madhye pranamavesh samyak, and then satam param purusham upaitidi. One is able to go to the Supreme Lord. Okay. So now, who is that person? Who is that Supreme Purusha? That is being described in verse number 11. Yedaksharam vedavido vadanti vishanti yadyatayo vitaragah yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe. So again, Indra Vajra meter. So yad aksharam veda vido vadanti. All the Vedas tell, or the knowers of the Vedas, Veda vido, those who know the Vedas, say that he is the Om, the sound Om. So this is Nam, or the sound Ucharan. So one should chant Om. Now we don't chant Om, we chant Hare Krishna, because that is the method given by in the Bhakti Yoga. So, but still, Bhagavad Gita is meant for all sampradayas, large, section of, it's the Moola Granth of all the Sanatana Dharma, the entire. So whether one is following Bhakti Marg or Jnana Marg or Dhyana Marg, etc., etc. So that's why it is written that focusing on the syllable or aksharam, which is Om. Vashanti yad, but we chant, we take the name of Krishna directly, and especially the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Vashanti yad yatayo. So I'll not go into the word by word to save time. So persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter the Omkara, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy, brahmacharyam. Now I shall briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. Now, the summary of the process is given here. Now, this is also a hybrid of bhakti and dhyana. So let us see that. Okay, let me just. Does anybody have questions? You can raise your hands. So depending on that, we can time the discussion. Okay. 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 The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. Yeah. And then 14th, 13th verse. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, Omitya Ekaksharam Brahma, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the supreme personality of Godhead. Now here see Krishna is saying in this verse 8.13, yeah, so this is important. Omitya Ekaksharam Brahma. So one could be chanting Om. Okay, now this is a Vedic mantra. All mantras start with Om. Some mantras start with other bijas, but Om is a very prominent bija of any mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Like it is, there are so many other mantras. So, Om, but Vyaharan Mam Anusmaran, but they are chanting my name. So even those who are chanting Om in their heart, they should realize that Om is no different from Mam Anusmaran, or they should remember me, Mam, Krishna is saying while chanting Om. So the meaning is that one should ultimately remember Krishna through his names. And one of the best ways, and given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, and not just Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's there in the Vedas, in the Kali Santarana Upanishad, directly it is there, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So by chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So it has all the names of Krishna. Okay. And more importantly, it has the name of Hare, which means the energy of Sri Krishna. So we request the energy of Sri Krishna to engage us in the seva of chanting the name of Krishna. So Vyaharan, chanting or speaking or saying the name. So even though the verse says Om, now Bhagavad Gita is aimed at a broader audience, not just for our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Okay, so we chant Hare Krishna. Other Sampradayas also chant Hare Krishna. Some other Sampradayas chant other names, Om Namo Narayanaya, or other names. But the goal is to remember Krishna, Mam Anusmaran. And like this, Yah Prayati Tyajayan Deham. Like this, in this, doing this remembrance, when one quits the body, Sayati Paramam Gatim. One attains the Paramam Gatim, the highest destination. And the highest destination is the spiritual world. Okay. So that is the essence of these 5 verses is to focus on Sri Krishna through various means. And we could see that the various means are like Nam, Rupa, Guna, Leela, etc. So like this, and one should गाढ़ा करने को क्या बोलेंगे, thicken या deepen. One should mature, like pakva, pakana, usko pakana, like दूध को पकाते हैं. We boil the milk. And when you boil the milk, it doesn't just get heated up, it becomes condensed. That's how you create condensed milk, by boiling it. So that is the condensation process of our bhajan. We do this for many years in our life. Then we can remember Krishna, or we can be absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna, just like Rosebud, he was absorbed in thoughts of Rosebud. Charles Kane. Like that, we can be absorbed in thoughts of Krishna at the time of death. So that is the meaning of today's class. Any comments or questions? Then we can take very important verse, which is 14. Let's see. Right? So 14th verse. So we will end with 14th verse today. So now what is the easiness? So we compared Dhyana with Bhakti. So the clear comparison was given by focusing on Krishna in various ways. Nam, Roop, Gun, Leela. All those were discussed in the previous verses. By remembering and deepening our bhajan like this, we can remember Krishna. Now Krishna says another very important thing. What he says? Ananya chetah satatam yo mam smaratin tyashah tasyaham sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yoginaha. So the most important word, or the most unique word in this 14th verse is sulabha. So sulabha is an important and the main focus of this verse. So other things have been said in other places. Ananya chetah satatam. Okay, so is yet another super seminal important verse. So we'll do a detailed analysis of 8.14. Ananya. Ananya means exclusive. Ananya, no other. Chetah, putting the mind. Always. Satatam, all these concepts. Ananya, putting the mind. Chetah, always, have been covered before, but again they are being emphasized. Always focusing the mind on who? Yo mam smarati, nityashaha. Again, nitya is coming. Nitya and satatam are synonyms. So the focus is on that, remember that 10-12 hour discussion? Satatam. Start with few hours, cannot be few minutes, 5 minutes. 5 minutes, then you'll stay at 5 minutes. I feel that 5 minutes is not a good starting point. Okay, even though we say 15 minutes, 20 minutes per day, then one should quickly come to few hours per day for those who are serious, really who are serious. Otherwise, I would say it is, you have already agreed, okay, few lifetimes. Then 15 minutes is fine. So, yo mam smarati nityashaha. So, satatam nityashaha, every day, all the time. Tasya aham sulabha partha. To such a person, tasya aham sulabha. I am attained very easily. I am attained very easily. Sulabha partha. Why? Because of his nitya yuktasya yoginaha. Because he is always engaged. So, what is important to note? Please, there is a subtle understanding. Please wake up. Everybody wake up. Okay, if you have slept off, or if you are doing other things, reading CNN or Donald Trump's latest activities, then you can close your browser tabs and listen here. What is written here in the last line is Nitya Yuktas. The reason why it is Sulabh is given because of his engagement in bhakti, not because of his attaining some result out of bhakti. So simply you do the input. In the material world, all that counts is output. Output determines the result. In bhakti, input determines the result. No matter what is the output, you have to do it to the best of your ability. That's all. So that is why bhakti is so important in Dhyana Yoga. This is the difference between squirrel and Hanumanji. You know that Ramayana story? Squirrel was also carrying small particles of sand. Hanumanji was carrying big mountains. Lord Ram said both are equal because the bhakti is equal. Now, if Dhyana Yoga, they had to do Dhyana Yoga, squirrel and Hanumanji, there is no way that squirrel can match the dhyana, let's say, of Hanuman. No way. Both have to do the same level of dhyan for success. There is no concession. But in bhakti, full concession is there according to one's capacity. Because you are squirrel, you can do this. According to you, you are doing the best. Because you are Hanuman, you can lift mountains. You are doing the best by lifting the mountains. So it is the input that matters, not the output. So that is why tasya aham sulabha partha, and the reason is nitya yuktasya yogina, because of his engagement in constant engagement. Nitya yukta, constant. Nitya means all the previous days. It's referring to all those days which was referred to in the first two lines, satatam and nityashaha. Because of that, it becomes easy. So, because Krishna makes it easy, and Krishna fills the gap. So, Srila Prabhupada often gives this example of dhyana is like a child of a monkey. He has to catch the mother. So, it is the strength of the child that determines whether he falls or not. Because the child is catching the monkey. That is like Dhyana Yoga. So if the child is weak or some child is strong, there will be a difference. The weak child may fall, the strong child will not fall. But bhakti is like the cat. The cat, the child doesn't have to do anything. The mother catches the child. So it doesn't matter whether the child is weak or strong. The mother is very strong. So mother here is Krishna. So you do your part. You just love Krishna. You do your bhakti and Krishna will do the rest. There is a corresponding verse in the 12th chapter, which is very important. That, let me show you, 7th verse. So, we are here, Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter. We'll jump to 12th chapter, verse number 6 and 7. So 6 and 7 says, Ye tu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya mat parah ananyenaiva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate. So like this, a person does ananya bhakti to me. Okay? That's what the first verse is saying, the sixth one, right? He's doing ananya bhakti to me. And he is dedicating all his activities and everything, his thoughts, mat parah, to me. Tesham aham samuddharta. Tesham, I lift him up. Directly he's saying, aham samuddharta mrityu samsara sagarat. From the mrityu samsara, Krishna is not saying he has to swim and lift himself up. Clearly he's saying, Tesham aham samuddharta. I lift him. Clearly it is being said that Krishna fills the gap. He need to just try, do his best. I lift him up. And like this, bhavami na chirat. Very quickly, na chirat. Chira means long time. Na chirat partha. Mai aveshita chetasam. Then he very quickly is able to focus his mind fully on me. So we can see all these things from Bhagavad Gita, that Bhagawaan helps, and this word sulabha is so important in this verse, that Krishna makes it easy to obtain him. So, tasya aham sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yoginaha. Simply because of his constant effort in bhakti. Okay. All right. So we will stop here today on time. And next we will start with 15, which is talking about if you don't do, then what happens? If you don't do this bhakti, then what are the consequences? Not as a consequence, as a threat, but just as a matter of fact. Where will we end up? So we will discuss that in 15. 8.15. Next week we have class. Yeah. So yeah, next week we will discuss and complete chapter 8. Okay. Any comments, questions, anyone? All right. Yes, Surya Prabhu.
Prabhuji, while doing japa, we should concentrate on name, form, or leelas.
You are asking what should we concentrate on?
Yeah.
Well, that is up to your whatever your taste has developed. You are doing japa from so many years. You should start seeing what you find more attractive. That is very personal. If that has not occurred, then just focus on the hearing of the name. Just the dhvani. Dhvani means the sound. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Abhinnatvam nama namino. The name and the nami. The nam and the nami are abhinna. They are non-different. Abhinnatvam nama namino. So the name and the named, nami and the nam, are non-different from each other. So just focus on the dhvani, and that would be a good focus.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
But slowly, and that's why it is, though it is said that Nam is the Sarva Shrestha Anga, but for those who are, it is possible, for those whom it is possible, for those who can read and invest the time, or hear, find the sources that you like to hear from, and hear in association of advanced devotees, hear about Krishna, then only you will develop the taste. Then only you will know the variety. Without eating matar paneer, palak paneer, shahi paneer, tell me a few more paneer things. Paneer bhurji, paneer tikka.
Paneer butter masala.
How will you know that which paneer item, or whether paneer itself you like or not? Then you have to eat bhindi masala and aloo. You have to taste the variety. Then you will say, this one I really like. So you have to taste the various varieties. So, and Bhagavatam is the full of taste. It is just so yeah.
While doing
For me, you
japa,
will only get the Bhagavatam angle mainly.
while doing japa, if you concentrate on leelas, it is diverting and
No, it's not diverting. At advanced stages, while doing japa, the focus could definitely be on the Leela, on a specific, very specific aspect of the Leela, like a static picture. Not like you are thinking of the whole story and doing.
Yeah.
That's
If story
not
comes, the mind is getting diverted.
Not that. When Leela Smaran means just one instant, as if like the whole time, cosmic time has frozen. You are focusing on just one static frame. That is what I'm talking about. Not like the whole little Krishna cartoon is running in your mind and you are doing japa. That is definitely distracting or distracted. Yeah, so don't worry about Leela Smarana and all that right now. Okay, these are deep concepts. Okay, right now focus on the name. If you cannot focus, put a picture of Krishna in front of you. That is why Bhagavad Gita is there. You know, you have these inside platelets, these colorful pictures. Here, you can focus on any of these pictures, Bhagavad Gita picture, or here, this Narayana picture, or so many others are there. You can focus on all these kinds of pictures, or just focus on the hearing, or sit in the temple. If you have temple, look at the deity and do your japa, or just close your eyes and just focus on the name. Very slowly do your japa. Slowly means not fast. Like each word and each syllable, very clearly do it.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, don't worry much about Leela Smaran and all that right now, and can get confusing.
If while doing so, out of 1 hour meditation, only 10 minutes are fruitful.
That's okay. Try to make 10 into 12 next time or after 1 week. Slowly. This is called training. If it is 10, make it 12. There, I know one devotee who does some mental calculation. How much I did yesterday, how much I am doing today. Not that you are keeping a count in a logbook or writing down, my third japamala was good, or not like that, but you get a general sense. Like today you are saying 10. Just now in front of everybody you said 10 number.
Yeah, only 10 minutes fruitful.
Yeah, but maybe after 2 months, if I meet you and you really have tried practicing, you might come and say, Prabhuji, no, last time I told you 10, now it is more. You will feel it in your heart. You will know that it has improved. That is progress. It's not that, it's not like a scientific thing that you have put a monitoring device and it is monitoring how many minutes, and then you get a, like a reading from the meter. That's not what I'm saying. You yourself can see whether I made progress or not. So keep track of it. Yes, like today you are saying 10, you should internally have the feeling that no, now it is about 15. Now it is 20, some number, but you should know that you are making progress in the right direction. That's good. In 1 hour, if you're doing 10 minutes of solid focus, you have made a lot of progress. I can tell you many people are at 1 minute. So you are 10 minutes. You are already much ahead.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So kind of you.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you next week. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
so much.
Prabhuji. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji.